And we are live. A Friday night live. We haven't done one of these in a while. But yeah, hashtag TQIF is in the house.
TQIF!
And I have the entire TQIF crew here. We have PJ and Starfleet Boy. And Brian here as well to represent some of the USS Texas Tex-Trek goodness coming at you from Austin, Texas. Recovering from Snowpocalypse 2021.
Yeah. Snowvid. I think they're calling it Snowvid.
Complete
Snowvid?
life support failure. Complete life support failure.
Yeah. Brian, as a former Alaska man, you must have been very disappointed with our unwinterized infrastructure.
Well, it was frustrating. I could absolutely have dealt with the cold, and I could absolutely have dealt with the power loss, but the two of them together kept leading me into blind alleys. Oh, I could do this. Oh, I have no power. Oh, I could do this. It's too cold. Oh, I could do that. And trying to make a functional, keep my world semi-functional when both of those are missing was very, very stressful and frustrating. So,
but we did survive.
Yes, we did.
Well, most of us. Some people actually did freeze to death. So that's tragic, and we deserve better from our institutions, and hopefully things will improve moving forward. But enough about that. We have some positive things to discuss. We have tons of Star Trek news, specifically Star Trek Prodigy, but all kinds of stuff. There are so many Star Trek shows in development, so we're just going to go ahead and kick things off and do our live podcast. We have people watching, so let's go ahead and initiate this thing. I'm Fathery.
I'm PJ.
This is Brian.
You're muted.
And this is Starfleet Boy.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 135th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we talk all about Star Trek all the time. And tonight we are going to be talking about a lot of the recent Star Trek news that has come out in the last week. But before we do that, I would like to apologize about last week. We were unable to release any content. We were in the midst of recovering from an unprecedented Texas snowstorm that was knocking out electricity and people's access to water, and people weren't able to use the roads, and it was just kind of turned us into a third world country a little bit for a couple of days, it felt like. But we've now recovered, and we can resume our normal Tex-Trek programming.
I think people will forgive you considering the circumstances.
Yeah. Well, I promised this big. I was gonna have 4 guests in the 4 weeks of February, and we had our guest Larry Nemechek, and then we had Will Nguyen. We're still working on something with Jesse Gender. We're kind of trying to find an alignment with our schedules, and hopefully we can record that and get that out. And there is another guest that we were trying to work things out with, but the crazy weather and just a bunch of stuff. So we had to take a week off, and here we don't have one of these special guests, but instead what we have is an opportunity to reflect on the big Star Trek news that came out this week. There's 5 shows in production, which has never, ever, ever happened before. We've never been close to that. So there's so much to talk about. I think the closest we've come to this would have been in 1994 when they wrapped production on Star Trek: The Next Generation. They shot All Good Things, the series finale. At the same time, Deep Space Nine was still in production, and they went straight into principal photography on Star Trek Generations, making a Star Trek movie coming
So it would have been in pre-production at the time.
Right, and they were also developing Voyager. So we would have had TNG ending, Generations ramping up, DS9 continuing its 7-year run, and then Voyager getting ready to take off of the runway, or depart space dock, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
So that was the closest thing we've ever been to this, where now we have... Right now, they are currently shooting Discovery Season 4, Picard Season 2, Strange New World Season 1, and they are animating the 2 animated shows, Prodigy and Lower Decks. People keep talking about, like, when are they going to do another Star Trek movie? It's like, we don't even need a movie. We have all these shows.
Yeah, it's true.
We don't need no stinking movie.
And we do have cinema quality TV shows. I mean, like, the production's pretty good.
Yeah, I guess just suddenly gets me curious. What is the line between production and pre-production for an animated show? I mean, it's normally like when you start actually shooting the actors, but that doesn't actually happen. I guess when they start drawing stuff or rendering stuff that is actually going to end up on screen rather than prototypes or rough drafts.
Most animation, you record your voice actors before you do like the final animation. So I guess I would consider it like when you're doing the voice recording and you're doing the storyboarding I would consider that pre-production. And then when you're actually like animating with the voice recordings, it's
production. So you're already done with the actors before you go into production.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's what the industry uses in their terminology, but that's what I would call it.
Maybe someone in the audience is in the industry and can tell us.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they have something that works. I just realized I didn't know quite what the dividing line is.
I don't hear people say that. I don't hear people say pre-production, post-production, production. I don't hear people make the same distinctions with animation.
Yeah, they might have their own terminology.
Well, Geek Filter is here, so he might have some insight on that.
Ooh, a new logo.
No?
Oh yeah, I've not seen that before. Very sharp looking. Character models and script concepts. So that would be pre-production. All right. Well, did any of y'all check out that sizzle reel that they showed at the Viacom CBS event that they had this week?
Yes.
The short little YouTube video.
Which one was that? I've watched some videos. I don't know if I've seen this video.
The one narrated by Alex Kurtzman.
Yeah, it was like him. It was like what I guess there was a call, right? Like it's a big Paramount, like a huge call that happened.
The investors meeting, yeah.
The investors meeting. So you could tell it sounds like a recording from something he said at the investors meeting, like an introduction, and then it's laid over all this awesome footage. But all past footage, basically.
Well, yeah, they don't have anything new to show there, but it made me happy to see that. I love when they cut like, especially like the older shows. Like they had some original series, and they used some of that HD CGI Deep Space Nine space battle from the What We Left Behind documentary. But I mean, hey, it looks good. So it was nice to see all that stuff blended together. And then the newer stuff with Discovery and Picard and Lower Decks. It was interesting how they phrased that for the Viacom CBS investors, where they were really trying to hammer in the idea of we have a show for every demographic now. We have Picard as the adult drama, and we have Prodigy coming out that'll be aimed for children, and we have Lower Decks as the teen comedy. So we have it all covered.
I paid attention and really liked the description for Star Trek Discovery as the show that brings the cinema or like the cinematic experience to TV is what he said, something along those lines.
Yeah, it brings in the strength of our movies to the TV.
Yeah, or something along those lines. Yeah, it was interesting, but I kind of like that because it kind of confirms a little bit like how everyone was like, oh yeah, they're trying to do the movie. They're trying to like do the aesthetic of the films, especially the more recent films. So yeah.
There was also a little back patty, but I mean, hey, like he's trying to like show off to like the Viacom CBS investors, so I get it. But you know, it's kind of back patty how he's like, yes, within 3 years we took this franchise that wasn't doing anything on TV, and now look what we expanded it into, all these different shows. So, but you know, good for him. They seem to be happy with them. They keep green lighting them for more seasons. So good for him.
Most Trekkies I think are happy too, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, you're never going to satisfy the entire fandom. I remember. Yeah. I mean, like when I was a kid watching DS9 and Voyager, I remember like half of the fan base then were like, these shows are terrible. So, and then with Enterprise, it was the same thing. So this is just normal for me.
I was there in the day where everyone thought the Next Generation wasn't real Star Trek.
And I was one of those people that refused to watch Voyager and Enterprise. That's not my Star Trek.
But a few years from now, there are going to be fans that are going to talk about like the new shows, and they're going to be like, "This new show that came out in 2032 isn't. Why can't this be like real Star Trek? Like, remember how Picard and Discovery and all of those shows were great back in the day?"
100%. That's totally going to happen a million times.
I don't think any of these shows will age well. Well, maybe not Lower Decks, but yeah.
You don't think they'll age well?
No, not at all. Especially Picard.
I don't know. I don't know how we can say that now.
I would argue
we'll find out.
We'll find out in 10 years. Yeah. How about that?
Yeah, I love, and I plan to be there to rub it in your face, PJ.
Yeah. I mean, aside from possibly a diversity issues, besides that, has any Star Trek series really aged well? They all kind of seem to be of their era.
Next Generation has aged pretty well. I
think so.
I think most of them
DS9
aged pretty good.
especially has aged very well.
DS9, I'll give you some credit there. That show has a certain timelessness to it, at least compared to the others.
Brian, I know you're not a big Voyager guy, but I think Voyager is aged pretty well. It doesn't feel particularly dated. I think Enterprise has not aged all that well.
I'm watching Enterprise, and I'm actually enjoying the latter I'm on the latter part of season 3 and going into season 4, and I'm enjoying it. I think it's actually the complaints
your
that
voice
I had...
went too high just then. I'm enjoying it. No, you're lying.
No, that's squee. That's squee.
That was like a squee. Exactly.
That's when that show gets good, is when it goes into season 4.
But we're not here to talk about
back in the day, but I changed my mind on that when I rewatched
That's really funny.
Last year.
You know what this proves is that Trekkies are fickle. We're just like all over the place. Depends on the year. Depends on the day. Depends what you ate for dinner. That's all.
But usually good stories are just universal.
That's true.
That's why Wrath of Khan holds up, even though that's like one of the low budget Trek movies with not a hell of a lot of spectacular effects. But yeah,
I think what happens is if any show delivers enough of these epic episodes, such as The Inner Light or Far Beyond the Stars, once you get enough of those in a show's belt, then it's memorable, because that's what those are the anchor points that kind of bring you back and make you tolerate all the bullshit episodes that are
have they done an episode of Star Trek since Kurtzman has taken over that has held up to some of the best TNG or DS9 episodes?
I would say Nepenthe is there, and then in Discovery, I think maybe I would say some of the Spock Burnham stuff. Maybe not an episode, but I really found that to be a profound addition to the Star Trek, narrative, if you will.
I think Crisis Point is one of the best Star Trek episodes.
Crisis Point. I was going to say that, and I say that as somebody who's not super on board with the Lower Decks. But,
100%.
And Forget Me Not in season 3 of Discovery was breathtaking as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I'd argue the hit to miss ratio is better than some of the less reputable Star Treks like Voyager and Enterprise. So I don't know if it's wildly better than that, but I would still feel like I'm getting more meat out of these shows than I was out of those. So yeah, I'm very happy with things overall. There's of course always room to nitpick.
Well, let's talk about the next thing that will be nitpicking, I'm sure.
Oh,
is,
yes.
Star Trek Prodigy. That's our big story of the night, so we'll just go ahead and knock this one out first before we go into any of the other shows. But yeah, we got our first look at the cast of characters, the main crew of this show. No other information. We don't know their names, their species, anything about their characters. We don't know the time period or what part of the galaxy or their, I guess, affiliations to, like, are they part of the Federation or not, or what? But just strictly judging the designs, what do y'all think?
Is this a new Disney Plus animated series? What is this?
We talked extensively about making up names and characters for it, by the way, on Boat Wreck yesterday, and that was a lot of fun. So I kind of have that stuck in my head as far as who these characters are. But overall, I'm pretty hype about it. Just looking at it, I mean, it's a kids show, so I'm not expecting to be like super into this show. But I'm excited that my godson and like the younger folks in my family will have a potential series that like is not like too intense, that they can like enjoy and like, you know, learn lessons of life from and stuff like that. So I'm really thrilled about that. And as far as that goes, these characters are probably like really attractive to little, you know, to young kids. Like they're just bright. They're all like there's two of them that look like badasses and like they're like, you know, fighters or something. There's one guy that's like a big Hulk type rock guy. There's a mystery blob and a robot. I mean, like you can't really go wrong.
I must be like a little bit more of a selfish fan than you are, because I actually hope that I like this show, and I'll be disappointed if I don't. But
I'm hoping that too.
I don't really care if like the kids like it or not. I want to like it. I want it to be good.
Father wants to steal the show from the kids. You're that guy that steals candy from kids, aren't you?
Do you guys think it'll be aimed at about the same maturity level as, say, Star Wars Rebels, or do you think they're going to go lower or higher?
I think that's about it.
Because if it's like Rebels, I'm happy. I love.
Yeah, I mean, you and I both
great.
love Rebels. Let's talk about the other Star franchise, but the
too,
comparison that I keep hearing from like the people working on the show and from like Nickelodeon have mentioned it a couple of times. They say like Avatar: The Last Airbender, Legend of Korra type show, and I know plenty of adults that enjoy those. So I think it will be kind of geared as that little bit more serious action adventure. It's still safe for the little ones type of vibe, just Star Wars Rebels type of thing. Yeah. That's what I'm expecting, and that's, to me, these characters seem like they would fit in there. You know, people listening to this will try to be like a little descriptive. The people watching this on YouTube will be able to follow along with us, but we're going to talk about each one of these people and this odd cast of characters.
Father, can I just say something? I love Geek Filter's latest comment, and Geek Filter, you should totally tweet that with the picture of these guys, because that's an awesome comment.
Yes, our friend Geek Filter, aka Aaron Harvey, who's literally wrote the book on the original animated Trek show, says that he loves that every character is an alien. Kids always feel like they are different, so that's going to resonate. Yeah, I agree. I think kids are gonna be more intrigued by these colorful aliens from another world than they would be if they're just like, oh, boring humans.
I think another thing that would appeal to kids, if this show appears to be, just from the still, a very well-rendered animated series. It looks cinematic in quality, and that's actually what they're aiming for. They want this. They want this to be like a Pixar, Disney level type of thing. And
wow.
I hope when you see these characters in motion, like that animation quality is there. 'Cause even now, as a kid, appreciated different styles of animation and how some animated shows or movies had a higher quality of animation than others. So kids can totally recognize that. Like,
I'm expecting it to look pretty good, because every modern Star Trek show out of the CBS All Access or Paramount Plus era that we're in are all very high quality production value. Everything looks slick. They might get like a little too ambitious with like spinning the cameras around or some of that stuff that they've done before in some of the shows. But Discovery, Picard, and Lower Decks, all three, I think, look very, very slick and high production value. What do y'all think about... Well, go ahead, Starfleet boy.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I like everything you're saying, and I hope they don't talk fast like in Lower Decks. I don't think they will. I think it's gonna be.
Well,
more
animation does move at like a little bit of a faster pace because you're able to communicate a lot more information visually faster.
Rebels
your brain kind of
sounds,
absorbs it.
Rebels sounds like the right pace. Whatever, not to like compare it again, but like I feel like that's not a fast talking show. You know.
I'll also say that as far as detail goes, these characters look more detailed than the characters in Rebels.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yes.
There's a lot of detail on here. We're going to start off with the one on the far left. I'm calling him Roboteen. But he looks like kind of a junky robot. He has like different parts combined together. Like his arms don't match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he's an exocomp that just kept evolving itself to like become like
this
a
is
walking robot.
This is Peanut Hamper. We also don't know the genders of any of these characters.
It's true.
I think some of them signal a little bit more masculine or feminine, but I mean, well, this next one that we're going to talk about. Wait, I forgot. Roboteen, I think, looks like the robots from that video game Portal.
Interesting.
I just want to throw that comparison in here. I kind of feel like everything in here looks like something I've seen somewhere else. Interesting is with the exception of perhaps this next character, nothing in here really sends off Star Trek vibes. And I think that'll change when we see it in context. Like, we know Janeway is going to be in the show, so that'll definitely make it feel Star Trek. Or when we see like a Federation ship or whatever, it'll feel Star Trek.
I will say, is this like the first time we've seen a simple rod antenna show up in Star Trek where we weren't doing we've gone into the past kind of story?
Maybe.
I'm thinking, I can't remember any time they had a piece of hardware in Starfleet or even alien hardware that just had a simple straight. Well, it's not straight; it's bent, but it looks like it probably was straight.
There's an antenna in shore leave on that probe thing that was
that's right.
Which one is shore leave?
It's like a UHF antenna. It's
so
the original
in the original series. If you go back to the 60s, then they have some straight antennas. So that is an interesting choice there to make things. I mean, that is a very retro by the standards of Star Trek thing to stick on it. It's very clearly cobbled together out of lots of different components from lots of different places. So
I think the troll guy made that robot.
Well, he looks like he's going to be the engineer type guy. He's got a bunch of equipment. He's got like this spanner and a bunch of other tools on his belt. I think he might have a cyborg hand, and it looks like it might be a 3-fingered hand, which is going to be interesting what we're talking about here. But with his species, does he look like a familiar Trek alien to anyone?
To me, he looks like a Talaxian a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if they told me,
he probably is a Talaxian. That's probably the most likely thing.
That actually, now that you're doing a comparison on slides.
I like that picture of Neelix.
That one tooth is a bit much. I guess Neelix got his big teeth removed or sanded down.
Well, I'm glad we have Aaron here watching, because he made this really cool visual graphic that if you're watching this, I'm sharing right now. But he points out several visual cues in here that to him signal Tellarite.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Look at that.
No, if they said it was I forget it. Dude, how many fingers are Tellarites supposed to have?
Well, they have 5, but like in the original series, Gav had like a paw for a hand, and then when we see Tellarites on Enterprise, they have this like like a human-looking hand.
Well, Klingons have both. Like, some Klingons have fingers and some have claws. So, I mean, there could be a different, different.
One joke I saw going around is that this is going to be the new Klingon look.
That would be. That would be Trek on the Tube, if I'm not mistaken.
If he is a Talaxian like Neelix, he could be the son of Neelix. Neelix was hanging out in the Delta Quadrant with that
he's doing
lady
a Kirk
friend. But what if these are like Delta Quadrant teens, and that's why Janeway is involved? Like maybe like they're in communication with the Federation.
Oh, I love
Maybe
it.
Yeah.
you know how the caretaker
Oh
was
my
bringing all
gosh,
those
that's
ships.
great.
The caretaker brought all those ships over to the Delta Quadrant. Like maybe they get on like some Starfleet ship that was taken over there. Something happened to the crew, but like these Delta Quadrant teens get on board and they're able to contact Earth and Janeway, and she's like giving them directives of how to like go do Starfleet missions and stuff.
Even if you're wrong, I want to see that show.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
No, if he's a Tellarite, obviously I think it's going to be a Alpha Beta Quadrant show and
Well,
totally different. But
He could actually be the one surviving crew member or something, or the child of a surviving crew member from this Starfleet ship. But yeah, if it is in the Delta Quadrant, it probably Talaxian's more likely. The robot hand is interesting. I guess there's been a lot more cyborgs in Star Trek lately.
Yeah.
Than we.
The Federation must have lifted some of those sanctions against, after post control. They were like, okay, we can start bringing some of this technology back.
So, and he definitely looks like the tech of the group.
no, I'm just calling him Short Shit because he's the shortest one.
Short shit.
Yeah. I'm sure as a children's cartoon, that's going to be.
Hey, it
his
was
name.
either that or a fat fuck, but I didn't want to like body shame them, so
Jeez.
I don't know their names. I have to give them their own designations. Roboteen, Short Shit, and then next we're going to talk about Elfling.
To be fair, there is nothing to provide scale in this picture. It could be that Short Shit is 6 feet tall.
Well, then Elfling is going to be like 10 feet tall.
It's animated. You can do that.
Yeah,
Or they could all be really tiny, like in Star Trek Beyond.
they're like Star Trek babies, like Muppet babies.
Yeah.
The Hageman brothers did an awesome tweet, like, "What did you expect?" And babyfying all the original series crew, which was really funny.
This Elfling looking character, the third one going from left to right. I'm not sure if this is a boy, girl, or it could be like a non-binary character. I don't know any of the genders, but I was thinking like Jayla was the last time we saw someone who looked kind of elf-like, or also the elves from Hellboy 2, the Golden Army. But I think this character and maybe like the one next to this character, they're going to be like a little bit of the more center stage, maybe like the closer thing to a main character, or maybe the
probably
leader
be
of the
our
group.
more of an audience surrogate, perhaps. If their more human appearance also correlates to more human attitudes and thought processes.
And this one screams to be like a little bit more serious, so that's why I'm thinking like this one looks like the most likely to be the leader. But yeah, I'm just calling this person Elfling.
What did we call him yesterday, PJ? Do you remember that person?
I compared that one to the picture of the guy from Hellboy who played the villain.
Oh, so same,
that guy,
similar
that
similar vibe.
that
dude.
species.
And his elf sister, Hellboy 2, the Golden Army.
Yeah.
That character reads female to me. The elfling, for some reason. I'm not sure why, but
I mean, it's obvious why. It's got a slender figure and it's got hair. That's what we've been trained as by the media.
I guess
so.
But no, I mean, like, there's, I mean, in gay
they might
culture,
switch it
like
up.
twinks, we have twinks, and they kind of look like that. So,
As the next character, would you qualify as a twink? I call this next
he's
one.
more-
I'd say that's a male character, and he sounds like, "Hey, I'm Bob. How's it going?"
yeah, he's like Tom
See,
Holland. so he's
it'll
like
Tom
subvert-
Holland?
It'll look
Yeah.
subvert.
See, I'm thinking
expectations.
more bouncy, higher pitched kind of.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Hyper.
Actually, like, may he rest in peace, Anton Yelchin, kind of like that
that'd
youthful
be cool,
energy.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I like that.
I just call this one Purple Zoomer because like so many like Zoomer kids I know have like that same like haircut and kind of like that fashion sense with like the blue jeans that don't go all the way down, and so that looks like someone who'd like be playing Fortnite and dancing
floss.
was
You don't
the
know the
Zoomer
floss?
dances. Yeah. If you were born after, let's say, 1990, you probably can't do this dance move.
Wait, if you were born after 1990, you can.
Or no, if
Yeah.
before 1990.
Oh, before 1990. Earl
But-
Grey Trekkies in the audience. Can you do the floss, Earl Grey Trekkie?
Oh.
Do you do that dance? I
Yeah,
wanna know.
he's young enough. I bet he can do it.
Yeah.
Um,
We'd like to know.
Aaron
This
also
design-
says.
Oh, okay.
Let me read this real quick. Aaron also says Ruby Rosish looking. Actually, yeah, I totally see that.
I was gonna say it looks like one of the characters from Ready Player One.
Yeah.
I forget I forget her name, but yeah, the female character from Ready Player One.
But
Do
if
we
I
think
had to
this
guess,
could be
this,
the
this
same?
would. I think this would be kind of like the naughty character, like the one who's
Yeah.
maybe like jumps before he looks, gets into trouble sometimes. Is a little
Sassy?
like carefree, maybe like a little like Tom Paris-y,
Yeah. well, more like what Tom
little-
Paris was supposed to be. Yes.
or like Ezra on Rebels,
Mhm.
like a little bit of like that youthful cockiness.
Yeah.
What were you saying, PJ?
No, I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, sorry. What were you saying, Brian?
Do you think this and the Elfling could be the same species?
Oh,
I
let's
mean,
take a look.
they're not a million miles apart.
Yeah, they are both like very humanoid looking. Different skin color, but I mean like humans come in a wide variety of colors. So
Yeah.
I think that's
Fitzpatrick, as we like to
possible.
say.
The taller one looks like they have different ears from the shorter one.
Yeah.
Can you see the ears on
Yeah.
the taller one?
Yeah.
I
There's
guess
a
you
different
can.
design in the ears if you get kind of closer, I guess.
I'm gonna guess that they're probably different because they don't signal enough similarity. But I mean, they're the two
Yeah.
most similar out of the group. That's for
Yeah.
sure. They look more
that's
similar
a-
than a lot of Klingons look to each other.
The taller one looks like she's from like an elfin Lord of the Rings world, and yeah, they look like they're from different worlds, but like it's just that I guess they're both feminine looking. I think like they look like they're the only two girls in the picture.
Well, the blob
that's the
might be
case.
a girl, or the robot might be a girl.
I liked Earl Grey Trekkie earlier said the blob character might be from the Gamma Quadrant, so it could be like a shapeshifter. By the way, is that you going back to Earl? Are you saying that's Earl Grey Trekkie when I said that's like? By the way, he doesn't know that dance.
Oh yeah, he
don't-
says he doesn't know that dance.
Yeah,
No.
so-
They haven't got that in Scotland yet. They're going to be a few years behind the American
Scottish floss,
teenagers.
it hasn't made it there.
I like the idea of a immature changeling joining the group or founder, but between the eyes and the nose and the color, I'm thinking probably not.
It's certainly a friendly-looking space blob. I'm calling this
yes.
one Blob Kid because I don't have a
love-
name
No,
for it
this
either,
one is
but-
clearly Shmoo.
Shmoo. Well,
Shmoo?
I don't watch the Orville, but I know they have the Blob Man on that ship
Oh, yeah.
on the
I don't-
Orville. So I thought it reminded me of that more than
Yaphet.
anything.
Oh,
His
Well,
name's
I mean-
Yaphet.
yeah.
But I mean, like a blob, a
Shmoo look-
gelatinous creature is not a new concept. That's been
Yeah.
in science fiction
Oh.
for ages, decades.
Shmoo looks less like
no,
no,
Father.
and more like
The
toothpaste.
Orville invented gelatinous creatures.
Oh,
Didn't you know?
it invented exploratory starships too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Current
The-
Trek is
the
ripping
most
off the
the
Orville.
most original show of all time, the Orville.
Yes. But yeah, do we think this the Shmoo is sapient,
was
or is
wondering
it
that.
kind of more like the pet, the
Like
a
dog,
mascot?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like Dino.
Yeah, the
Scooby?
Dino.
I hope it actually has a
Scooby.
purpose and can communicate and can be an actual part of the crew and function as a part of the crew as opposed to being just a pet that's
I
just
mean,
there for
in a
like,
kids'
cuteness.
animated cartoon, there's no just the pet. Scooby Doo's kind of important to the TV show Scooby Doo.
Yeah, Aaron is asking about the Herculoids and their blob character. They had two blobs actually. There's like a mama blob and a baby blob, and what were they called? That's gonna irk the hell out of me if I can't think what those things are called.
What are the Herculoids?
The Herculoids. That was the Was it Filmation or Hanna? It was Hanna-Barbera
All right.
in the 70s.
Oh, well, no idea.
So it dates to around the time of Shmoo as well. So
What's a Shmoo? I have to
Shmoo?
look it up. Who's Shmoo? Oh,
He was a white blobby character who would in several cartoons. I think it was Hanna-Barbera.
I remember Shmoo now. I had to see Shmoo before. I
Yeah.
yeah, I couldn't remember Shmoo until I saw Shmoo.
I'm too old for this podcast, clearly. So.
There's definitely a Shmoo vibe going on. Yeah, I see it now.
But yeah, I my hunch is kind of going to be. I mean, there's almost the happy little seal kind of look to him there. You know,
Yeah.
That makes me wonder if he's going to be like Slimer in the real Ghostbusters or something. You know, where it's
There's definitely a tradition in these
Voiced
animated.
by Frank Welker.
Yeah, no, they should totally get Frank Welker involved in this show, the greatest voice actor of all time. But there's definitely a tradition in these animated children shows of having the like the friendly animal mascot character.
yeah, and also the only one not clearly not wearing any sort of clothes or artificial constructs.
Well, does
of
the
some sort.
robot? I guess the outer casing of the robot
Yeah.
is the clothing. That was like
Yeah.
C-3PO's rules, right? Like he was
Yeah.
naked when he didn't have his
Right.
casing on.
It
But
would
doesn't
be
that
neat
creature
if
look
it
like
is
a
a shapeshifter.
walking nebula or something? That's what it reminds me of. Like
A
Yeah, it does
little.
have like
Yeah,
this
the
cosmic-y
stars
look.
inside.
It looks like
Yeah.
a space cloud nebula with stars type of thing.
It's going to be a sapient micro universe.
yeah,
That would be pretty interesting if they did
That would
something
be
like
pretty
that
fun,
outside of the
actually.
box.
Yeah,
The last character we have on the far right is the big rock guy. I'm calling him Vasquez Jr.
Oh.
And
I think it's a rock. I think it's a rock girl voiced by Rosie O'Donnell.
rock girl. Well, they're just wearing like these. They're just wearing like these. I guess like black rubber overalls with like no shirt. Just it seems like a little bit more of like masculine attire to me, but I don't know the species or what they wear. The big comparison I've seen a lot is the deleted Rockmen from Star Trek V that never got to be officially included in the canon, I guess, because they were just a deleted scene until Star Trek Lower Decks used them in Lower Decks Season 1, Episode 2.
That's really funny. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's what he kind of looks like to me, but I doubt he's related to that. He's going to be an original rock person from a new planet that we don't know about.
he's also rocking a limited number of fingers too. So I guess that's kind of an animation tradition to not do all the fingers.
Yeah,
So,
this one has 4 fingers. Although I think like the 2 more humanoid characters in the middle, I think they'll probably have the traditional 5-digit hand that most serious animation uses. But
So-
this one has a lot of personality to me. I think I look at this. I think this one's kind of like the gentle giant, probably like big and strong, but not mean spirited. Just wants to be kind of just friendly and maybe like a little timid.
so
Kinda
you
like
don't
that
think
shy
he's?
wave there.
Do you don't think he's too much the Thing or whatever?
The Thing, like
From
John,
the
Auburn
Fantastic-
time.
John Carter.
No.
Oh no, the Marvel Thing.
Yeah.
Well, the Thing was kind of grumpy. You know, he was like
Yeah.
he kind of had like that. I mean, like he was good-hearted, but he was just kind of like he's like that Brooklyn attitude. You know, a
Wouldn't it
tough
be
guy,
so
tough guy
cool
from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
If Michael
This-
Chiklis voiced this character, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean
But
that's
did
not,
a different
that's not what I'm
take, not
seeing,
like
but-
imitated the Thing, but like did a softer approach.
Oh yeah, he was the Thing. He played the Thing in those Fox movies. I forgot all about that. I'd be down for it.
Yeah.
Let's
He seems shy, or they seem shy, like that little wave and like kind of like hunched over with like a bit of the,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's like something.
It could be that this is like the crew member that tags along that they don't really know anything about, but is secretly a serial killer.
I
Oh
love
wait, it's
that.
a kid show. It's
I
a kid
know, I
show.
love
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was like,
Or It could be, but let's be honest, it's not. So.
Yeah, it's true.
I think that is that species that they were supposed to have in
So
part five.
this thing is going to be like sent from God out of the center of the galaxy to join this crew.
This whole show is going to be a giant sequel of Star Trek V, the TV series. So,
But overall, I'm
the
impressed.
the robot carries the Katra of Cybok.
Yeah, we have the Katra of Cybok. The guy next to him, he used to live on Nimbus 3.
Actually, I could totally believe that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
The Elfling lives in the forest of Yosemite National Park.
Yeah.
Purple Zoomer. I don't know. There's actually not that much. There's not that much to milk out of Star Trek V. Actually,
No,
it's like Nimbus 3, a camping trip, and God, and that's it.
I guess Shmoo could be the marshmallows, the marshmallows.
Yeah, that's the marshmallow.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, you've got it figured it out. God damn it, we're amazing.
Father, when do you think we're gonna get like more meat about Star Trek Prodigy? PJ
Very soon.
PJ was saying like a couple of weeks, right? Possibly.
Well,
Yeah,
if they're planning on releasing 3 shows this year, they're gonna have to start with something. I think it's gonna be Prodigy, just because it's been like in production for well over a year now. So, like, I think it's probably close to ready. I think in a couple of weeks we may get the first actual trailer, because that's usually how it works. They
Or at least like
release
some
the still-
casting news. They'll say like
yeah, at least, yeah.
the actors and what characters they're playing, like the characters' names, and like a little blurb about each character.
When do you think this is going to come out? Like maybe summer?
I think summer,
Yeah, June.
June or July. I don't know. We
I
haven't had like a.
May the 4th. There you go.
I think it'll be longer than
Stick
that.
it to them.
I think we would already have a trailer if it's that. They'd be
Yeah.
like really ramping up the marketing if it was only just a couple of months away.
I think they usually do the cast announcements usually at some point too, like, you know, with that cool beam out effect that they do it on Twitter or Instagram with those little videos like so and so's in this show or so and so. Because I don't even know who's in other than Kate Mulgrew and Okana. We found out about that.
We got more about the Okana thing that I want to bring up.
Oh, okay, all right.
But yeah, I don't know when we'll get more information on Prodigy, but I would say it'll be soon, and I think we'll get a lot within the next few months. I think spring. Well, I'll say spring is probably when we're going to be hearing about the show, and then it will come out either in summer or fall. I think
can't wait to see.
we might get not Discovery. We might get Lower Decks season 2 before this, because I know that they've been doing a lot of work on that too. So I don't know which one's going to come out first, but probably one in the summer and one in the fall, if I had to guess.
I can't wait
Andrew
to
has
see
a question
Janeway
that I'm-
rendered as a CG character, and Okana, see what he looks like as a
Yeah.
CG character, and
I bet you there's-
how much
I wonder-
time has passed since the last time we
I
saw
bet
these
you that,
characters, because we don't know.
I bet you some artists out there have already tried matching the style and doing a Janeway. I'd love to see some of those things. But yeah, I have that question too. When do you think it takes place? Like, if you had to speculate.
With the inclusion of Janeway, I think it takes place post Voyager. So I think it'll probably be around the same time as Lower Decks, maybe a little bit later, around the same time as Picard. One of those two. In between the two
Yeah.
of them.
Well, clearly it's at a time where there's not a synth band, because there's a synth as a main character.
Well, or they're in the Delta Quadrant.
Yeah.
Right.
Wait, didn't they say the synth band was galactic?
I
They
don't.
did.
I think
they
that
did.
was like an exaggeration.
Yeah, it's called Bad
Did
Writing.
they
but
really
anyway.
say it was a galactic synth band? Because that would have been that whole.
It's like
I
in
think that's
Discovery
the-
Season 2, all
Yeah, when I say
sentient
the
life in the
universe.
universe, when that
Yeah.
actually wasn't the case the entire time, but whatever.
It's a lot of control would have to work.
It's
really
like
hard
Galaxy
to-
Universe, interchangeable words. It's sci-fi
Yeah.
bullcrap.
Did
that
they
don't
did they
really
do
care
that
about.
in Discovery Season 2? They said universe in place of the galaxy.
At some
They
some
use
point,
those
yeah, I
words
think so.
interchangeably, like they don't. They're no different from one another. But yeah, anyway. That's
That
what you
that would
get.
be an epic EMP to knock. I mean, non-EMP, like a biological EMP to knock out all sentient life in the universe.
I didn't notice that. I'll have to go figure out which episode that's in.
Yeah, I don't remember hearing that because that's usually the sort of thing that would annoy me. But maybe
I know people did
I
get
know-
annoyed at how often they said galaxy, like the entire galaxy, when they meant like the entire Federation. But I never heard them refer to the galaxy as the entire universe.
I actually think I can find the instance. I'll send it to you, and because I kind of remember where it was, but maybe we're wrong. I don't know. I know they do it a couple times though.
And on top of that, they keep saying all sentient life in the galaxy when that's just not the case. They skip over people who aren't advanced, so there's plenty of sentient life left in the galaxy, but whatever. Let's not get into a debate about
Well,
how
to be
stupid
fair, Star
Discovery
Trek
is.
has almost a tradition of if you haven't invented warp drive, you're not actually real people. But so,
And
That's-
as I learned recently from the alternative factor, that you can actually there can be catastrophic effects that are universe wide, such as what was happening when Lazarus was fighting with his antimatter self. So,
Oh, sweet God in heaven.
so perhaps,
Yes, the finest episode in all of Star Trek, the alternative factor. But
I am an apologist for that episode. So,
I know a lot of people who like it actually.
yeah.
I think Aaron Harvey might be one of them, but I just want to point out that he was able to find out for me the name of the blobs from the Herculoids were Gleep and Gloop, and he also said that they too had a rock creature, so some more overlap. Another comment we have from Farpoint Station, longtime Tex-Trek audience member, is he's asking if this show will be canon, and I think yes. I think anything that they spend money on going forward, any show or movie that they actually produce is going to be considered canon, because they're never going to want to be like, well, the show doesn't count, it's not part of the canon, but please watch it anyways. I think everything is just going to maintain the golden rule that's been around forever. If it's on screen, then it's canon.
it's just safer to assume that. I think if you don't want to be embarrassed later on.
I mean, if you want to omit it from your headcanon,
That's fine
go,
too, yeah.
go right
Everybody
ahead.
has
and do
that right.
but- yes.
I have a hunch this show's going to be less silly than Lower Decks, but
I think so too. I think it'll have more of an edge to it than, like, it won't be all out joke after joke. I think there's a comedic element to it.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it's clearly going to have
it won't
some
be-
levity. This
It won't be like
goofball.
Naked Gun.
yeah.
I mean, like, some of these things are goofy, but I think that it will take itself seriously. If that makes sense.
Yeah, especially if they're going for the Avatar model. I mean, there's definitely some silly in there. Oh, hello.
But I saw this image online as kind of a joke of like what these characters look like. But I don't know. That's a little mean spirited, but I thought it was kind of funny. But yes, we also know that Janeway will be included. They have mentioned Captain Janeway before, but I'm thinking they're just forgetting that she's an admiral when they're saying that. I think she'll actually be an admiral in the show.
I don't think they would forget such a thing. Maybe
Yeah, they would.
Yeah?
Dude,
totally
they can't
would.
keep Galaxy and Universe straight, apparently. They can absolutely forget that Janeway was an
Remember,
admiral.
I
Alex
see people-
Kurtzman thought that Pike dies in
Oh yeah.
We didn't think that. That's just
Did he
what he
say
said in
his
the
death?
heat of the moment.
But yes, but as Sean pointed out, Kurtzman just misspeaks, and sometimes they just say the wrong word, and then it's like, no, that's not actually. She's not actually a captain. She's an admiral. I think she's going to be admiral.
Yeah, I think she's going to be
Why
admiral.
would she be a captain again unless she got
Do you know
demoted
how
for
many
being a
times? How many times in my life I've heard someone talk about Star Trek 2 or Star Trek 3 or Star Trek 4, and they say Captain Kirk? He's an admiral in all of those movies, except for
Right,
like the last 5 minutes of Star Trek 4.
I'd like to know if I ever did
You're
that.
just used to calling them captain.
Yeah.
That's all.
Or like and with Picard, a lot of people have probably said Captain Picard instead of like, well, he's actually a retired admiral during the show.
It's-
But people are just used to saying Captain.
It's actually
Janeway,
okay to say
Captain Kirk.
Captain Kirk because that was his last rank. Like technically, even though he was an admiral in the film, if you're talking about him in present tense, you have to say captain.
No, you don't. I disagree with that. I think you would say what he was at the time.
Yeah, certainly if you're talking about something he did at the time. So,
But if you're just talking about overall his adventures, you can say Captain Kirk when he was an admiral. Like you could say that,
Yeah.
like because captain was his last known rank. Father's just looking at me.
I think we're getting into the weeds here a bit.
Yeah.
We are getting into the weeds, but I think this is an important clue as to when the show takes place. I think it will be a post Nemesis Star Trek show, like everything else we've gotten in the last year, including season 3 of Discovery. I think it's going to continue that trend of going forward past where Voyager left off, and I think.
Do you think they will? Do you think they will set it in approximately the same time as Lower Decks to open up the possibility of doing a crossover at some point?
Oh my goodness, that would be so cool to see the Lower Decks cameo in a CG form.
Yeah,
I would love to see that.
Or vice versa.
I don't know if that's like a priority for them about like doing crossovers, because Alex Kurtzman also made it noteworthy to point out that the new shows they plan on doing, any show that they make now, they're probably going to try to find like its own little time period to set it in. And so I think they do kind of want to like let each show kind of be its own thing. And I don't think that they're focused on crossovers. At some point they are going to cross over. There's just like it's too big of a temptation not to ever do it. Eventually we're going to have a 1000th episode of Star Trek in 5 to 10 years. I think that'd be like a really cool opportunity for a 1000th
You know what's
episode.
Interesting
I'd like to see a Captain Mariner in Picard season 2 show up.
Yeah, I'd like that.
When all is said and done, I think they're going to please the most fans ever, because if you kind of think about it, you've got like little audiences building or fandoms building for each of these shows, right? Like there's people who are hardcore into Discovery. There's people who are going to be hardcore into Strange New Worlds who are like longing for that, Captain Pike vibe. We've got the comedic element with Lower Decks. And then you're going to have this audience that's going to love this, especially the younger audience. And so you're going to have like the largest perhaps variety of things, and maybe not everyone's gonna like every show, but a lot of people are gonna like the shows collectively, and that's pretty cool.
That's the model that they're going for, and Alex Kurtzman, was trying to make that clear to the Viacom CBS investors that we're hitting all the demographics.
Yeah, it's neat, and for like pretty, it's pretty good. I like that plan.
I would just say if you're going to set it around the time of Nemesis, why not set it close enough that you always have that option if you want to,
right?
To do a crossover. Seems like that is, at least for me, from somebody who loves to draw those connections and play around with that stuff, that would seem to be the natural decision to make, just so I have the option on the table if I ever want to do that kind of a story. But as you say, they might have been burned enough with trying to make Discovery a prequel series that they're like, no, give it its own decade, so we don't have to worry about any of that. So.
Now, in the chat, some of our audience is discussing that maybe it'll be a holographic Janeway in the show, and that would allow them to do it in the far future, even like something like the 26th century, and Janeway exists as like a hologram, maybe on their ship, who's able to help them out, show up to like give them advice or leadership. I'd rather it be
is that
more
why
connected
she's the captain? She's the
emergency captain hologram. I would rather it be more connected to the 24th century, but that's just me.
So Picard becomes a synth, and Janeway's ultimate fate is to become a hologram. So all the new captains, and Sisko's like a god. So
and O'Brien's a statue.
And Kirk is dead on Viridian 3 with some rocks stacked on top of him.
Wait, he might also be in the Nexus, like a part of.
And Pike gets to go to basically heaven on Talos 4, where he can go.
True.
He's there with the woman he loves, and he can like live out any fantasy he can imagine. So they all get a happy ending except for Kirk.
Yeah.
Red Ketchup says, "What if Janeway is the robot?"
No, that would be weird. Kate Mulgrew's voice coming out of that robot.
Well, its eye could be the actual thing that emits the hologram of Janeway. Maybe the robot has that emitter in it.
No, y'all mentioned Billy Campbell played Okona in Outrageous Okona.
It's Okana.
Or Okana.
He also
I like
auditioned for the
Okona,
role of
though.
Riker, by the way.
By the way, this should give us a clue of when it's set. It can't be set too far in the future, right? If Okona is in it or Okana.
Unless there was a miscommunication. I actually saw Aaron Harvey suggest this on social media, so I'll give him credit for it. But he said that he's appearing on this new animated Star Trek show. It's a comedy. It's called Star Trek Prodigy. It's going to be really funny. It's going to be great. Star Trek Prodigy is not a comedy. No one else has ever described it as a comedy. What if he misspoke and he really meant Lower
he
Decks
meant
when he
Lower
said
Decks.
Prodigy?
That would make more
That
sense.
makes a ton more sense because we know that he would be around in that era, shortly after
100%.
TNG.
And he's exactly the sort of thing that would slot right into Lower Decks
Yeah.
as a character.
Oh
But
my
I
God.
like
I
Billy
don't think he's that
Campbell.
stupid, though, to confuse one entire... Why would he know the name of Prodigy? Why would he even be aware of Prodigy
Because
at all?
if he's never watched either one of them and they just like talk to him about like these animated shows and stuff.
He's just
Like,
like,
don't
not,
think he's
not,
that
not
stupid.
everyone,
I think
not
it is
everyone
why-
lives
back
and
in
breathes
I think
this.
you want me
Yeah,
back
he
on
Okana
just
will show
Googled
up.
Star Trek animated series and Prodigy came up first.
Well,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I have to say,
he
I
went
did
on a
think-
job. He read a script and he completely confused one show with another. I don't buy it. I think
They
he's
don't give you
actually-
the whole script
I think he
anymore
is
these
actually in
days.
Prodigy. I don't think there's any reason to
He could totally
think
be
he
in
was
Lower
that
Decks.
confused.
It actually makes more
That's
sense because
ridiculous.
when I heard that thing and I read the thing, I was like, oh, it's a shame they don't have him on Lower Decks because he's perfect for Lower Decks, and I feel like that like was a thought I had, and so like
Could
it
be,
makes
I don't
more
know,
sense
maybe.
to me.
Who knows?
I like
But
Billy Campbell.
maybe he should show up on Lower Decks too, as well. Like,
Yeah.
he should show up,
Why not put him
he should
on
show up
both?
on all the shows.
Yeah, he should be like, yeah, it's true. It's true. Can you imagine in Star Trek Picard, like something
He
happens?
could. Why
He
not?
could- I know. I'm agreeing. I
I
I'm
want to
saying-
see
love
him in
that idea.
Strange New Worlds. Strange New Worlds, that would be great.
All
As
I'm
his own
saying is
grandfather. There you
the
go.
Rocketeer. The Rocketeer is one of the most underappreciated movies
It is. It's a
of
really
all
great
time.
film.
And Billy Campbell needs some type of some prize to make up for that. Because he should have gotten like a whole series of Rocketeer movies. That first one was so good, and he should have turned in like this big movie star, but he didn't.
He should have been Riker instead of Jonathan Frakes. Ooh. And Jonathan Frakes should have been Okana.
Well, what if he wasn't as good of a director? We wouldn't have had
I
Star Trek
can't
First
even see
Contact
that.
then.
Maybe Billy Campbell would have been a better Star Trek director. Think of that.
Yeah, First Contact would have been
But
even
that's
better.
Terry Hatcher, by the way, isn't it?
It is.
Yep.
Yes. there you go.
Speaking of Lois,
Who's speaking
Were
of
we?
Lois? We weren't.
Yeah, I was
talking
about to say,
that on
were
here.
we
No, people
speaking of
stop.
Lois?
That was like off
we will
camera.
be. Yeah, that's right. That's true.
So let's just move on away from Prodigy, unless any of y'all have like anything else to say on it. But I think like I covered all the
No, it was
information
really,
we know about it.
really extensive.
The
All
the
from
last
one
thing,
graphic.
The last thing I guess
Amazing.
we now know it will be 10 episode season. They confirmed it will come out this year, and it will be on Paramount Plus. It'll still hit Nickelodeon after they
Isn't it 20
wrap
episodes?
wrap it on Prodigy on Paramount Plus. No, it'll be 10. He said 10.
Prodigy will be 10 episodes?
And then Lower Decks will be 10, and then I guess
Why
we'll get.
did I read something from one of the Trek? No, I thought it was 20. That's weird. Just 10 for a kids
I heard
show.
22. Let's look it up.
That doesn't seem right. For a half-an-hour kids show, only 10 episodes. That's going to be on Nickelodeon. They usually produce like at least 20, 22, something like that.
Well, no, back in the old days, they used to order like
I know Lower
50
Decks is 10.
they'd order like 52 episodes, and then they would like add on like another 13 or another 52, and then that pretty much things would tend to stop at like 65 or 104 episodes tops, because they could just rerun that forever, and that was kind of the traditional kid shows for a long time. But I don't know how they do things now in like this modern era of TV with shorter seasons. I think anything that's going to be like a high budget, high production value is going to be shorter seasons, though. But I mean, yeah, that's what they said at the
NEW and also
the
the Verge.
announcement
They're
a
all-
few days ago.
They're saying 10 episodes. So it must have come from the official press release.
And that was on Trek movie.
And so we're supposed to get like 30 weeks of Star Trek, right? Is what they're saying.
Well, we don't know if it'll be continuous, if it'll just be like one after another. But they did say that.
But in the year 2021, we will get 30 episodes, right?
Well, we already had one episode.
Right. I know, but I'm just saying that's what they're saying, right?
They're saying that Prodigy season 1, Lower Decks season 2, and Discovery season 4 will all come out this year. I'm a little surprised and a little skeptical on the Discovery season 4. I think that if that comes out, it'll be like at the end of the year, and it might not.
That's what I think too.
It might come out, in like November or December, and some of it will carry over to 2022. And I could also see it like getting pushed back because I don't know how fast they're going to be able to do the post production with the current.
Well, they better be damn
COVID.
good.
They would never push back.
Be 10.
They would never push back the release of a season of Discovery.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah, didn't you tell me it was never going to premiere in this year at all?
I didn't think there was any way because they've said like it takes so long to shoot everything now. It takes longer. The only way I could see them finishing the season is if they're making this a shorter season also, and it's going to become 10 episode seasons like all the other Star Trek shows. And I think that might be a possibility. Strange New Worlds, we know, is going to be 10 episodes. Picard season 1 was 10. Lower Decks season 1 and season 2, both 10 episodes.
Wouldn't it be great if that 20 episode thing was actually Strange New Worlds has 20 episodes? I'd be so happy.
If we're getting all these shows, I don't really mind the shorter seasons because that'll kind of keep things fresh. Do 10 episodes on the Disco, and then let's do 10 episodes on the Enterprise, and then let's do 10 episodes on the La Sirena, and 10 on the Cerritos. Just keep, moving around. You'll have constant new Star Trek, so why does it matter if they're shorter seasons? So those of us who are going to watch all of them.
Yeah. So they're not throwing any short treks at us.
They haven't announced anything, and I think that the short treks wouldn't be required in an era where you had year-long Star Trek, but I had suspected we would get some short treks sometime this year with everything in production, so many cameras rolling, and a bit of a delay before we get the next new episode of a show. I thought that we might get a short trek in the meantime, but I don't know. Now I'm thinking
care for them. Who cares about short treks anymore?
I like them.
We already have 5 shows now. We're covered.
The only one I really, really liked was the one that Mike McMahon wrote, the Harry Mudd one, The Escape Artist.
I like The Trouble with Edward. I think that's the best one.
I won't be heartbroken if they don't do any more, but I was enjoying it, and it did seem like the sort of thing they like to stuff in there here and there. So I was kind of curious. But
the type of stories that Star Trek is really good at don't necessarily like work great in a short story format. I think if they expanded those to be like a little bit longer to like a 20-25 minute short film, I think they would and put like a little bit more, budget into it. I think those are just kind of meant to be like little cheap things just to keep people subscribed to CBS All Access.
Aaron's like, The Trouble with Edward is literally the only thing in Star Trek I absolutely hate in 50 plus years.
and it's canon. Even that weird commercial, it's canon, folks. This is what they're telling you canon is. I liked it because it was so absurd and probably pissed a lot of people.
And Dave hates that too. But
I mean, it really does feel like a live action Lower Decks in hindsight.
Yeah. I think Lower Decks is a little bit better, but
you can argue about the quality of the jokes, but you could most of the story beats. Edward could absolutely have been a character in Lower Decks who creates a bunch of tribbles that fill up the ship, and he gets consumed by them. You can absolutely see that happening in Lower Decks.
Well, speaking of Lower Decks, they have given us official word that we will get season 2 this year. We were all kind of suspecting that, but it's nice to have it official. So I'm looking forward to seeing, what happens next with that cliffhanger at the end of season 1. And another thing we've learned about that recently from the actress actually blabbing on a podcast, and then I heard, kind of.
Sure, she wasn't talking about Prodigy.
Yeah, who knows? But Licia Naff, is that how you say her name? Who played Ensign Sonia Gomez on The Next Generation season 2? only appeared in 2 episodes. One really famous episode because it introduces the Borg, Who, where she spills coffee on the captain. Maybe that's why she got kicked off the ship. But she's going to be appearing as a Captain Gomez in Star Trek Lower Decks.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of funny.
She has to spill coffee, or somebody has to spill coffee on her.
Oh, yeah. And then someone, like, apologized to her, be like, oh, I'm so sorry, Captain, this is clearly my fault. And she's just like, indeed, like Picard said. But she's also famous to me because when I was a young boy, I watched this new action-packed sci-fi movie called Total Recall that blew my mind because it had a three-breasted woman who was played by Sophia Gomez. So.
Oh, that was her. Okay.
Yeah.
I for some reason I can never remember the face.
Oh, we're being bad. We gotta move on, but yeah. So that's what we know about
into After Dark territory.
About Star Trek Lower Decks season 2. I just wanted to mention that since I talked about Okona possibly showing up in Prodigy or Lower Decks. I thought I'd mention Gomez as well.
I love that you say Okona.
Okana. It's like tomato.
Big Kahuna, the Big Kahuna. That's. I like that shot.
The last thing I wanted to talk about was, well, not quite the last thing, but next to last thing I wanted to talk about was that we have confirmation that Strange New Worlds and Picard are both in production. Cameras rolling on both these shows, so we can expect to see both of them in 2022.
All right. Excited about that.
Do you think by 2022 we'll also have another season of Lower Decks and maybe the second season of Prodigy?
That's a possibility. As far as we know, there hasn't been a third season of Lower Decks greenlit, but I think with as good as the first season was, I would assume that they're pretty happy with it, and that they'll also be happy with season 2, and they'll want to do a season 3.
And I believe they're already started recording for season 2 of Prodigy.
Yeah. Mike McMahon said that they're pretty far along on season 2. So,
no, of Prodigy.
Prodigy.
Like Kate Mulgrew's actually, they're starting to.
Oh, actually, yeah. Someone mentioned season 2. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I think it was.
It's got a 2-season order anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty common with animation. They'll buy like 2 seasons at a time.
I mean, if you're doing 10 episodes a season and you're still using old industry 20 episode stuff, then you might as well just buy 2 seasons of a show and give it a fair shake. Just spread out. You know what I mean? It's kind of like...
Earlier this year, I watched the new Harley Quinn animated show that's on HBO Max now, and they did the same thing with it. They produced 2 seasons at the same time, and those were successful. And now they have ordered season 3. So
yeah.
Kind of par for course with animation, I believe, from what I understand.
A show would have to be really bad to bomb in its first season nowadays. So,
well, now the actual last thing that I wanted to mention is Star Trek Section 31, if that's what they're going to call it, but the Section 31 show with Michelle Yeoh does not look like it is happening soon. It looks like they finally reached the Paramount Plus saturation point with their 5 shows. This is the first time I ever heard Alex Kurtzman talk about like the Star Trek shows and not be like, we have like so much more that we're ready to roll out. He's like, oh, we're actually just going to hang tight at 5 shows. This seems to be enough right now, but we have other ideas for when these shows stop. We have other shows that we're already thinking about, and one of them that we have conversations about is Section 31. So it sounds
Can
like
you zoom in on that phaser?
The Section 31 phaser?
Yeah, totally. Oh, it's very like Star Trek.
It looks like the assault phaser from Star Trek 5 and 6.
5 and 6, yeah.
It's got it's kind of like the assault phaser and the TOS phaser had a baby.
Yeah.
So.
Very cool. Sorry
that makes
about
sense
that.
for what Section 31 would be using in the 2250s, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of bummed about that, but it makes sense also. I mean, it's a lot of Star Trek.
Yeah,
if I had to pick one of them to not do right now, put on the back burner, like the one that I'm kind of the least interested in, it probably would have been Section 31. However, after season 3 of Disco and what they did with Giorgio and those episodes, I'm actually pretty eager to see it. So I hope it does get made at some point. But it also sounds like Michelle Yeoh's schedule. They were busy with, she's doing Marvel stuff now. She's in the new Shang-Chi Marvel movie, and has other stuff that she's working on. So
I speculate
it kind of
that
sucks for the.
Yeah, I speculate if it happens, it'll happen after Picard ends, which is rumored to be a 3 series and you're done type.
There's
of
been a
show.
lot of talk about it only being 3 seasons. So
yeah.
And they might get season 3 of Picard done pretty quickly after season 2. Season 2 of Picard was supposed to start production way back in the summer, and the only reason why it didn't is because of COVID.
Yeah.
The what was I gonna say? I've actually been waiting for the point where they say, okay, we've got enough Star Trek. Let's stop announcing new shows because it's been crazy. So I it doesn't surprise me at all that they finally decided to say, okay, these are the shows we're going to make. These are the shows we're going to think about making, and that's what we're going forward with for a while. So
lest we all get Trek fatigue, right?
Well, I just figured there's got to be a point where your average audience member doesn't need that much Star Trek a year. I mean, maybe we'd all watch it. We would watch it. But
I would prefer not to have the overlap. I love doing like these weekly discussions of each episode. I'm so thankful that they do release weekly. I don't want it to be like the Netflix model where they dump an entire season at one time, because I don't want to like binge watch it and then like no one's going to be on the same page with the conversation. You won't be able to talk about it with other fans because everyone will be on like different episodes, and people will just like watch the whole thing so fast that they won't want to talk about like the little nuanced thing in each episode, and this way we kind of get to spread it out, and we'll still have like that constant revolving door of like there's always going to be like another season
perhaps
coming out right after one ends.
Yeah, well, I think from their economic model, they want to spread it out just to make sure you stay subscribed for as long as possible. So I do think that will be the case.
With 5 shows at like 10 episodes each, you got the year covered. So we could get to a point in 2022 or 2023 where there's literally new Trek every week of the year almost.
That was the goal. I
week.
remember Father saying 52 episodes in a year,
Which is what we used to get when there was, Voyager and DS9 both had 26 episode seasons. So that was 52 episodes a year. So it's not more. It would be like it'd be like the return to the normal for me, and that's how I grew up. But what they're saying now is like one show every quarter. So I think they are going to space it out a little bit. There might be like a few gaps between the seasons. Like maybe like a month or so when one
show every quarter. They have 5
comes out.
shows, so it's going to be a little more than one show every quarter, like 1.5 shows every quarter.
That's what I'm saying. Is like they might have like some gaps between them where, like, there'd only be like 4 shows would be out in a calendar year out of the 5 shows in production.
Oh, you don't think they'll like keep it steadily at 5 consistent? Like they'll let a show go for a while before they introduce a new one.
Yeah, I think that's possible. That's one of the things they were doing with, like, I was talking about Harley Quinn a second ago when they had the DC Universe streaming service, is they basically had like a new show come out every Friday, and they would have like all of Titans, and then they would do like all of Harley Quinn, and then they would do like all of Doom Patrol, and then they do all of Swamp Thing. There was always something, but that streaming service did not last, and all that stuff got moved to HBO Max, and they didn't keep up with that model. But I think that was the original idea. I would be down for that, but I don't think that's necessary. I think if they did have like a few gaps between them, and I wouldn't mind having a little Star Trek break every now and then. Let me play a video game or
I want to get that on tape there, Fathery saying I wouldn't mind a little Star Trek gap every now and then. Never thought I would hear that from you.
Well, it's not the end of the world. If we have 5 shows in production, I feel like that's an embarrassment of riches, and I shouldn't complain.
Oh, yeah.
Embarrassment of riches. I love that phrase.
And if you get sick of Trek, you can just like not watch it for a while and then just binge like a couple of seasons of some new Trek.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
not going to do that because
No.
when I go too
I
long
didn't
without
think so.
old Star Trek, I'm just rewatching I'm always rewatching the old shows. I just go in chronological order, and it never ends. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. So, any final thoughts from any of y'all about any of the 5 shows currently in production?
Just that I'm super excited. I think about this year, and Star Trek. Yeah, I think earlier I was just saying like I'm more excited for the kiddos about Prodigy, but I do hope I love it, and that there's I do hope it reads like Rebels, or and that I can enjoy it just as much. And I suspect I will.
I mean, I enjoy a lot of stuff aimed at like the younger demographics. Like I like Batman the animated series is one of my favorite TV shows. All that Bruce Timm animated stuff. I like Rebels. I like a lot of that. I suspect I would like Avatar: The Last Airbender whenever I get around to watching it.
If they're pitching at the Avatar level, then it should be something that is not all that obnoxious for an adult to to watch. So
it's not going to be Yo Gabba Gabba. We don't have to worry about that. It's going to just not be. It's not going to be as like intense as what an adult series is. It'll still deal with serious things, and I think it'll still be very entertaining for all ages.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward
Star
to
Trek,
Lower
Star
Decks
Trek.
season 2 the most.
You're looking forward to what?
I don't know. Starfleet boy cut me off.
Oh.
No, I'm looking forward to Lower Decks season 2 the most. Out of this year, I think 2022 is going to be way better though. So you're going to get Picard with some more like legacy characters in there, and Strange New Worlds, which I just can't wait to see.
It's the one I'm looking forward to, but
It's the one that's most like Star Trek.
yes, it's the most
Or
traditional.
supposed to be.
That's the exact reason I'm less excited about it, is because I've seen hundreds of hours of that kind of show.
I want to see the updated version of all that old crap. That's what I want to see. I want to see like if you're not going to do
called
Kirk
Star
and
Trek: The
Spock
Next
again, at
Generation.
least do Pike and Spock.
The updated version of all that old crap is Next Generation, PJ.
Now that we've gotten to see the 32nd century in Discovery, and I have some idea, I can make some guesses loosely about what the next season of Discovery would be. I think Picard is the show I'm now most anticipating.
Ooh, I like that.
Whereas before, until I'd seen season 3 of Discovery, which absolutely met and surpassed all of my hopes, but I do feel like you can now kind of guess what season 4 of Discovery is going to look like, whereas it's a lot harder. So I'm kind of ready for some Picard at this point.
Yeah,
See what they're
Picard,
gonna do
I'm
there.
very curious about, and also it's been so long since Picard season 1. I mean, it was only a year ago, but it'll be another year before we see season 2. So yeah, a 2-year gap between seasons. We're ready for some more Picard. I want to see the continuation of what they're doing there, especially when they had like so long to like polish those scripts. You'd think like it'd be a really well thought out season.
You would think. Hopefully that's the case. Hopefully all of this like extra preparation that they do for these shoots now, where they have to go in knowing exactly what they need to shoot, less room for error. It could be an advantage, or it could be a huge.
Yeah.
Could be make no difference whatsoever.
Or we're going to get endless seasons of Star Trek dealing with space plagues, because that's what was on all the writers' minds for the past year. And so every Star Trek show is going to be space plague.
Go back and watch season 1 of TNG. There's like 4. There's
Star Trek: The
There's
Naked
3 or
Forever.
4 episodes about like a virus or some kind of infection, or
It does come up a lot. I've noticed that. I've been rewatching some DS9, and it comes up there. I've been, earlier, no, not in this year, last year. But last year, I watched all the animated series back to back to back to get ready for Lower Decks, and there's a couple of Plague episodes there Like it does come up. We've come across a few in Starfleet Boys Saturday reviews of the original series season 1.
Tomorrow, City on the Edge of Forever.
Well, there's no plagues in that, but
No. Dr. McCoy has that weird thing happen to him.
Murderers.
where he gets high and paranoid.
Yeah, it's like
Not quite the same as a plague.
But doesn't his skin get blotchy and weird? And
Yeah.
He turns into a meth head.
Yeah.
He's looking for meth. That's the whole point.
Star Trek was ahead of its time.
But yeah, it's a good situation we're in. The only thing that I would say like I'm a little saddened by is the delay of the Section 31 show, because I know the writers had already put like so much work into getting that ready, and Bowie and Erica seem to be like really big fans.
Super stoked.
They've talked about like all their inspirations. They're like, oh yeah, like we're really into Deep Space Nine and Battlestar Galactica, but we don't want it to be like a real dark show. We want it to be like still optimistic. And I saw recently they cited Stargate SG-1 as one of their inspirations. So Brian, I know you're a big Stargate guy.
Yeah, no, I love me some Stargate. So I'm kind of interested to see how that would connect to Section 31, unless they actually have a Stargate. But,
yeah, they're just going to be using the Guardian of Forever.
Yeah, I mean, that would certainly be a way to do it. I don't know. It wouldn't feel very Section 31-y other than it's secret, but...
It would be hilarious if for somehow they're able to just find the Stargate like use it.
Stargate, I'm pretty sure
Stargate,
what is it? Who owns Stargate? It's MGM, right?
It is.
Yeah,
is, and they're Disney now, right? Or
they're MGM's owned by Sony.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Last I checked.
Got it.
Yeah, because they own James Bond.
Yeah, though I've heard Disney's making some vague noises about MGM could be Disney.
Whoa, no, they own enough. Disney doesn't. They've already bought too much. I wanted the courts to stop them from getting Fox.
I'm not saying I approve of this idea. Yeah. I'm just saying I've heard gossip that Disney's poking around at the idea. So we could get our Spider-Man back. So.
Well, hopefully they don't get Star Trek and then like combine it into Star Wars.
That's the day Father will go full Viking.
Yeah. I don't think they do that, but I could. I don't want Star Trek and Star Wars being owned by the same people. That would be bad. And I kind of like that Stargate is also not owned by either of those parties.
Yeah. The other Star franchise.
Infinite diversity, please. Let's not all come under the same roof. It's true.
But that's one of the problems with like these all of the Hollywood companies merging and getting bought out by these bigger parent companies is that we've gotten to a point now to where like there's only like 5 or 6 companies in the entire entertainment industry. And so if you have an idea to pitch that like none of those 5 or 6 are interested in, like those ideas, like how many things like don't get made now because there's not enough people to go to, not enough people to like shop your ideas around to. So that like I hear creatives talk about these concerns, but anyways, that's another topic for another day, I suppose. But yeah, this is exciting. 5 shows in production, and later tonight on Starfleet Boy After Dark, we're gonna have some stuff to talk about. Starfleet Boy, if you want to tell us about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about WandaVision, of course. We've been talking about that all along. And then Superman and Lois. We've all seen it, right?
Yes.
Well, I'd never heard of it.
So Superman and Lois. And
lots of Superman stuff to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Oh, yeah, they're rebooting Superman. Henry Cavill is out, apparently.
So yeah, all you Superman and WandaVision aficionados, come over and share your thoughts with us on Starfleet Boy After Dark. Oh, Brian disappeared. Brian's there. Brian, you're welcome to come on if you're all caught up on this. I have not yet
seen this week's WandaVision. That's probably what I'm going to do after I get off of this, though. But
well, go watch it before some bastard on the internet spoils it.
Don't worry, nothing happens.
And we'll go on if what do you guys say? 30 minutes? Does that work for you, gents?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be 9:30 my time. So
Yeah, so 10:30 Eastern Standard Time.
4:30 a.m. my time, sure.
Oof.
So 35 minutes wherever you are. Set a timer for 35 minutes. Then log on to YouTube, go to Starfleet Boys channel, and catch our ongoing fun and adventures over there. Late night style.
TQIF.
Hashtag TQIF. So thank all of you for joining me, and anyone who's checking this out later, please comment or hit me up on the Facebook page or Twitter and let me know what you think of these 5 shows in production and what you're excited for, and be part of the conversation with us. We'll be back next week with some new content, 7:30 p.m. Central Friday. Until then, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek, and follow Fathery on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.